Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Today, we're looking at this huge military parade in Beijing, September 3rd.
Right, commemorating the end of World War II, Japan's surrender. 80 years.
Exactly. But it felt like much more than just history, didn't it? It seemed like a very deliberate message.
A global statement, definitely. Veiled in history, but aimed squarely at the present and the future.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to figure out what that message was. What was Xi Jinping really saying, especially to Western leaders? What does it tell us about China's view of a potential new world order?
Well, we've gathered quite a bit here. News reports, analyses covering the attendees, the tech on display, the diplomatic signals.
So we're trying to get beyond just what happened.
Precisely. We'll need to understand why it matters for international relations going forward, and crucially, what it implies for the West's response, how they need to maybe adjust their thinking.
And right away, that guest list caught everyone's eye.
Yeah.
Xi Jinping with Putin, with Kim Jong-un side by side.
Yeah, that image alone, very powerful.
What did that immediately signal
Well,
before anything else happened?
it certainly defied the usual diplomatic protocols, didn't it? It screamed deliberate alignment, a statement in itself.
Some analysts are already calling it the axis of upheaval. Is that right?
That's the term floating around, yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Putin and Kim. You had Iran's President Pezeshkian there, Myanmar's junta chief Min Aung Hlaing. Quite the lineup.
So what is this axis of upheaval, according to the sources we looked at? What's their supposed goal?
As these analysts frame it, it's this loose coalition. China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, Myanmar are the core.
Yeah.
And their shared aim seems pretty clear. They want to fundamentally reshape the global order, the one largely led by the West since World War II.
So it's not just about wanting more influence within the current system.
No, it seems more fundamental, like they want to rewrite the rules, redraw the map, so to speak. It's about challenging that Western-led structure itself.
And how are they going about it? What are the methods described?
It looks like a multi-pronged strategy. First, actively undermining U.S. interests, think Taiwan. That's a constant flashpoint, or potentially threatening key shipping lanes.
Right.
Second, and this is key, they're working together to get around Western sanctions, creating economic lifelines for each other.
Okay. Examples.
Well, what's fascinating here is the pragmatism. China reportedly buys a huge amount, maybe 90% of Iran's sanctioned oil. That's a massive bypass.
Huge economic relief for Iran, obviously.
Exactly. And in return, or perhaps just parallel, China gets critical rare earth metals from Myanmar, essential for tech, green energy.
And the military angle. North Korea and Russia.
Yeah, North Korea supplying troops, ammunition to Russia for the war in Ukraine. And in exchange, they get economic help, military assistance from Russia. It's very transactional.
Transactional. That could be a strength, but maybe a weakness too, if the transactions don't pay off.
Potentially. It highlights mutual dependency, but perhaps not deep ideological alignment across the board. It's built on shared opposition and mutual benefit for now.
And then there's the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
Who wasn't there? That seemed just as deliberate.
Oh, absolutely. A stark visual. Out of 26 foreign heads of state or government, almost no Western leaders.
Just Slovakia's Fico and Serbia's Vučić, right?
That's right. Fico, who's been against sanctioning Russia, even visited Moscow. Vučić plays a balancing act, wants EU ties, but keeps doors open to Russia and China.
So their presence almost emphasizes the absence of the others.
Precisely. It wasn't an accident. It was curated to send a message about shifting alliances, about who China sees as its partners in this new era, and pointedly, who it doesn't need or perhaps doesn't want at the table for this kind of statement. It's a direct visual challenge.
Okay, so beyond the guests, the actual parade, the military hardware, that was loud too, wasn't it?
Extremely loud. This wasn't just dusty tanks from history books. It was a showcase of China's modern, growing military power. A very clear exhibition.
What specifically did they choose to put on display? What were the highlights?
Well, you saw advanced stuff. Fourth-generation tanks, carrier-based aircraft, modern fighter jets. But it went beyond that.
Like what?
They really emphasized new capabilities. Cyber warfare tools, electronic warfare systems, think advanced drones, directed energy weapons.
Directed energy, like lasers or microwaves?
Essentially, yes. Highly focused beams to disable targets and jamming tech to disrupt communications. plus hypersonic missiles, which are incredibly hard to defend against, missile defense systems, and strategic strike capabilities.
Wow. So who's the audience for that kind of display?
It's definitely dual audience. Domestically, it's about projecting strength, reinforcing the idea that China is a superpower. That's vital for the Communist Party's legitimacy at home.
Or makes sense. And externally.
Externally, the message is aimed particularly at the U.S., Japan, Taiwan, and China's neighbors in the South China Sea. It's saying the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, isn't just training for the future, it's combat ready now.
Ready today.
Yes. Ready to project power, deter anyone seen as an adversary, and enforce China's security claims. So the military show and the diplomatic moves we discussed.
They're completely intertwined.
Exactly. An integrated message of power and intent, directly challenging the military status quo.
And speaking diplomacy, connecting that military show to the wider diplomatic theater, Beijing seemed keen to position itself as the leader of the global South.
Very much so. Look at the attendance from Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, Myanmar, all sent high-level people.
But not the Philippines.
Right.
And Singapore sent a deputy PM.
Right. Those absences or lower-level representations are also signals reflecting their own strategic calculations and relationships, particularly with the U.S.
But beyond Southeast Asia.
Leaders from the Middle East, Central Asia, Africa, Latin America were there too. It creates this picture, this narrative.
How does that guest list, contrasting with the missing Western leaders, feed into Xi's vision of a new world order? An order where China is maybe the leader, pushing back against U.S. influence.
It's absolutely a core part of that narrative. By bringing together this diverse group, Beijing is saying, look, we're not isolated. We represent the interests and aspirations of the developing world, the global South.
So it's a show of support for China's vision.
It acts as a kind of diplomatic vote of confidence. It aims to show Western leaders that China has broad support, that it's not just China versus the West. It undermines the idea that the West sets the only legitimate international agenda.
Positioning China as the architect of a different future.
Exactly, a multipolar future where developing nations have more say, more influence. It's a direct challenge to what Xi calls global U.S. hegemony, that dominant U.S. influence. China is effectively saying, we have allies, we offer an alternative path.
Which brings us back to that really striking image, Xi, Putin, and Kim Jong-un, all there, together.
Yeah, that specific trio, that was remarkable. Kim's first multilateral international meeting since 2011.
And the first time these three have ever been at the same event together.
Correct. That's unprecedented.
So what's the real significance there? What does that specific trilateral alignment suggest about their shared goals, especially in challenging the existing order?
Well, there are clear mutual benefits, and the strategic messaging is potent. For Putin, standing shoulder to shoulder with Xi offers significant legitimacy while he's facing Western isolation over Ukraine.
Right. It breaks that isolation visually.
Absolutely. For Kim Jong-un, it's a huge international stage. It strengthens his ties with China, which is crucial for North Korea economically, especially under heavy U.S.-led sanctions.
And Kim often tries to balance between Moscow and Beijing, right?
He does. This event allows him to do that publicly, enhancing his standing. And for Xi Jinping,
What's in it for him?
it showcases the depth of the China-Russia strategic trust. It also lets Xi visually demonstrate his influence over both Putin and Kim. That's a powerful position.
Meaning he's briefed by both. So if he meets Trump,
He walks into any potential summit, say with President Trump, with more confidence, having heard directly from both leaders. Plus, all three share a common interest in pushing back against the strengthening U.S.-South Korea-Japan cooperation. They see that as a direct threat.
were there expected talks behind the scenes about, the New World Order?
The expectation was definitely for quiet bilateral discussions, especially Xi and Putin, likely talking about post-war scenarios, the future global architecture, but emphasizing strategic ambiguity, not necessarily making loud public declarations against the West, but coordinating privately.
And the timing. Washington trying to broker talks on Ukraine. It adds another layer.
It does. It creates a very complex geopolitical picture. Remember, Putin was last in China earlier in 2024, came back in 2019. So this convergence now is particularly noteworthy.
Here's where it gets really interesting, this idea of reshaping history itself, using the WWII anniversary not just to commemorate, but to rewrite the narrative.
Yes, that's a profound strategic element. Connecting the past to future ambitions, potentially including ambitions for, well, a kind of world dominance or at least primacy.
How exactly does Xi plan to retell that story based on the sources? What's the long game in challenging how we usually think about WWII?
It's a crucial part of the communication. Xi was expected to use this platform, the 80th anniversary, to argue that China played a decisive role in defeating Japan, fundamentally shaping the war's outcome in Asia.
Which challenges the usual focus on the U.S. and the Soviet Union.
Correctly. It challenges that dominant narrative, and it serves two key purposes. Domestically, it fuels nationalist pride, which boosts the Communist Party's standing.
Okay, and internationally.
Internationally, it bolsters Beijing's claim to be a founding architect of the post-war order. It gives them a kind of historical moral authority when they talk about reforming global governments today.
And how does Japan fit into this retelling?
She would likely balance emphasizing Japan's historical responsibility with offering a vision of an Asia-Pacific community with a shared future under Chinese leadership, implicitly or explicitly.
But the main thrust is connecting that history to the future.
Absolutely. The historical narrative directly feeds into future goals, stressing an end to U.S. global hegemony, pushing for multipolarity, demanding more representation for developing countries. It's all one package.
So the overarching message is,
China is presenting itself as, we were decisive in the past, we are powerful now, and we intend to design the future global order. It's a very clear signal about rebalancing global power, with China moving towards the center.
so what does this all mean? For you listening, for the West, we've seen Beijing make this huge public statement, defiance, military muscle, a diplomatic push for a China-centric, multipolar world, explicitly challenging U.S. influence.
It's a major challenge.
Given this, what options or considerations does it force upon Western leaders? How should they think about countering this?
Well, based on the analyses, the implications are pretty stark. First, the absence of most Western leaders was itself a countersignal, a unified stance against Russia's invasion and this broader alignment.
A deliberate snub.
You could see it that way. The sources also mention ongoing U.S. efforts trying to broker a deal with Moscow on Ukraine, President Trump's stated interest in meeting Kim Jong-un again. So diplomacy isn't off the table, but the context has shifted.
Could Kim's presence actually be linked to wanting talks with Trump from a stronger position?
That's plausible, yes. Leveraging his closer ties with Xi to re-engage with the U.S., perhaps. It adds complexity to any potential negotiations.
And this clear China, Russia, North Korea alignment.
It serves as a direct counterweight to the U.S., South Korea, Japan trilateral cooperation, which has been strengthening. So the stage is set for ongoing tension, a reevaluation of alliances.
So the West needs to consider its response carefully. Military, diplomatic.
Absolutely. This display forces a look at the whole spectrum. Military readiness, alliance cohesion, diplomatic strategies, economic statecraft. The challenge to the established norms is now very public, very overt.
This deep dive really highlights how one event, one parade, can be so much more. A strategic message reflecting potentially huge shifts in global power.
It's not just about the hardware. It's about the narrative, the ambition, the alignment. It's all choreographed.
Indeed, the parade showcased weapons, yes, but maybe more importantly, it cemented this visible alignment challenging that established order.
Which leaves us with some big questions for you, the listener, and for everyone, really. How will this push for a multipolar world directly challenging U.S. hegemony actually play out? What's the real impact going to be on stability, on cooperation?
And what are the next steps in this unfolding story? How durable is this axis of upheaval built, as you said, on pragmatism? Could it fracture under pressure?
Lots to think about. How will the West counter? What strategies will they employ? It's a dynamic situation.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into a complex and evolving global picture.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this discussion valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the Geostrategic Podcast for more in-depth analysis on topics that shape our world. Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay tuned for the next episode.